Greetings, everyone. So the German bishops are at it again. I was actually going to record a video today about what Pope Francis said in his interview on Friday, the 10th of March, where he suggested that they might be looking at permitting priests to get married and getting rid of priestly celibacy, even though a few years earlier he just said that no, that is something he isn't going to be looking at and that they won't be changing. But this story is much greater and much more saddening, so let's go through it. Women's ordination transgender ideology moved forward at German Synod. So I'm just going to read through this and be disgusted, and you can be disgusted along with me. At the concluding press conference, Bishop George Batzing of Limburg, president of the Bishops' Conference, said that the results give a mandate to the bishops to make some changes in Germany now, while pushing for broader reform. So here we go. Delegates of the German Synodal Way on Saturday overwhelmingly passed measures to change church practices based on transgender ideology and to push the universal church to ordain women to the sacramental diaconate. The vote took place on the final day of the process's concluding assembly that was held in Frankfurt. On previous days, delegates voted overwhelmingly to adopt same-sex blessings, normalize lay preaching, and ask Rome to re-examine the discipline of priestly celibacy. While the Germans pushed forward with these controversial measures, the assembly held back from crossing a line laid down by the Vatican concerning the establishing synodal councils at the national, diocesan, and parochial levels. The Vatican has said the synodal council model, which involves shared governance between bishops and the laity, isn't consistent with Catholic ecclesiology. The Synodal Assembly decided to delay voting on the proposal. Instead, it will be considered by a newly established synodal committee over the next 3 years. So we're going to have 3 more years of this, while Synodal Way leadership attempts to change the minds of Vatican officials and garner more widespread approval in the universal church. Good grief. At the concluding press conference, Bishop George Batzing of Limburg, president of the Bishops' Conference, said that the results, so this was, I mentioned this already, this was underneath the title, said that the results give a mandate to the bishops to make some changes in Germany now while pushing for broader reform. The church is visibly changing, and that is important, Bishop Batzing said. Irma Stepper-Karp, president of the Central Committee of German Catholics, ZDK, said the results show that the synodal path in Germany will continue. It does not end here. It is just the beginning, she said. Observers, including 103 international bishops who signed a letter warning that the synodal way could lead to schism, have expressed concern about the heterodox ideas promoted by the process and the effect it could have on the wider church if the Vatican doesn't sufficiently intervene, and the Vatican isn't sufficiently intervening. Why doesn't Pope Francis, look, I don't like bashing Pope Francis. I know some channels will bash him every week. I just don't feel that's productive. It doesn't make me feel better to bash Pope Francis. But why the heck, as the Pope, does he not do something about this? He should be stopping this. The way I see it is there should be one reprimand, one very serious reprimand to say, stop this now. And if they don't stop, get rid of them. And that's it. And then this problem is sorted out. Because the church is a body, right? If there's a part of that body that seems to be infected with something, you've got to get rid of that part so it doesn't affect the whole body. And he isn't doing that. You know, it says in the Bible, if your arm is causing you to sin, cut it off, right? Get rid of these bishops in Germany. Vote on gender ideology. The implementation text dealing with gender diversity passed with support from 96% of the 197 voting delegates. 38 bishops voted for it, while only 7 voted against it. 13 abstained. This is just like what's happened in the Church of England then, what's happening in Germany. They recently had a vote on same-sex blessings, and the vast majority of bishops voted for it. And they are the hierarchy of that church. There were like 3 houses, I believe, in the Anglican Church, or there are. One is the bishops, the other is the rest of the clergy, and then there's laity. And all the houses passed same-sex blessings, but two of them were very close. It was like almost split down the middle, whereas the bishops, I think it was 32 voted in favor, 4 voted against, and 2 abstained. And here we have a very similar number. We have 38 bishops voting for this dealing with gender diversity thing, and only 7 are voting against it. This is in Germany. Consistent with a pattern running throughout the assembly, there would have been enough votes to block the measure if those abstaining had voted against it. So they didn't do much good abstaining. Critics of the Synodal Way say that organizers' removal of the secret ballot has created a fear-driven atmosphere that has prohibited many bishops from voting freely. The resolution calls for concrete improvements for intersex and transgender faithful, including changing baptism records to match someone's self-identified gender. Can you believe this nonsense? Banning one's gender identity from consideration for pastoral, ministerial roles, and mandatory education for priests and church employees to deal with the topics of gender diversity. Intersex refers to people born with mixed sexual characteristics. Man. The text is also very much against external sexual characteristics being used as a criterion for accepting a man as a candidate for the priesthood, a measure that could open the door for attempted ordination of women. During the debate, a small minority of bishops voiced opposition to the measure while emphasizing that the church should improve its pastoral care of those identifying as transgender. Auxiliary Bishop Stefan Zekorn of Bistum Munster, said he could not support a text based on gender ideology, while Bishop Stefan Oester, I love reading these German names. I've got to say, I like the German language. It's very, get in there, German, Deutsch, ja. It's like, this is my name. This is what I'm saying. I love pronouncing German names. I love pronouncing German places. And I'm sure there are many fine Germans and fine German Catholics. It's just these German bishops that are an issue. And all these people they've brought in to discuss from these Catholic flipping organizations, or this Z, what is it called? ZDK. Anyway, Bishop Stefan Oester of Passau said that the document failed to emphasize that a Christian's primary identity should be rooted in Jesus Christ. Yeah, it seems they've completely forgotten about Jesus Christ, yeah? Easy to do, really, as a Christian. I mean, not like he's central or anything to this whole faith. But the vast majority of those who spoke expressed support for the measure, of course. Gregor Potschun, the head of the Heterodoxical Federation of German Catholic Youth, said the claims of gender ideology were a scientific fact, and that the church's denial was causing people to commit suicide. Oh, yes. That's probably absolutely not what's happening. So he's basically just lied. Julian Eckstein, a professor of theology at the Johannes Gutenberg University of Mainz, claimed that the book of Genesis was an inadequate basis for questions of sexual anthropology. Yeah, sorry, Genesis, you don't say enough on this matter, so we had to step in. And Viola Kohlberger, a young adult from Augsburg, said there is no norm for gender, and that the tradition of the Catholic Church was holding back progress. Indeed, the Catholic Church is just too archaic. They have to get with the times. Come on, move forward, Church. I would like to break it today, she said. Break tradition? What's she talking about here? When the vote passed, delegates stood to applaud while some unfurled rainbow flags expressing support for homosexuality and transgender ideology. As we saw in the opening picture at the top of the article, there we go, there's that flag. There's the woman at the front. Yes. Progress. All in the name of progress. Got to get this old, broken down church to move forward. Get with the times, get with the worldly times. Support for women's ordination, we move on to that. Delegates passed the implementation text, Women in Sacramental Ministry, Perspectives for the Universal Church Dialogue, By a similarly large margin, only 10 of 58 bishops voted against the measure that calls for the German bishops to advance the issue of the sacramental ordination of women at the continental and universal level of the Church. A motion adopted by the Assembly replaced the call for the establishment of a sacramental diaconate of women with opening the sacramental diaconate for women. The distinction made clear that the Synodal Way is pushing for women to be integrated into already existing holy orders, an idea the Church has repeatedly affirmed is impossible. Yes, the Church has. They basically said, we do not have the authority to do this. We can't do this because the Holy Spirit that is in the Church simply isn't permitting us to do this because it isn't correct. Delegates adopted another motion that modified priorities related to the all-male priesthood, calling for the practice to be simply re-examined rather than ended at the universal level of the Church. Cardinal Reinhard Marx of Munich and Freising said that the motion was needed to build consensus for changes to the Church's dogmatic teaching related to the priesthood. Others were less interested in the slow approach. Several women delegates were seen in tears after the vote, saddened that the text did not merely explicitly call for female priests. Why did they not just say women should be priests? They were flipping crying over this, absolutely devastated. So they're trying to sort of weasel it in some weird side way of trying to like make it possible instead of just saying, look, women should be priests. Come on, isn't it obvious? Discriminating against someone because of their gender must be put to an end in the Catholic Church, said Delegate Suzanne Schumacher-Godemann. When are these people, these ladies in particular here, going to understand that there isn't any discrimination against women in the Catholic Church? The greatest human being that wasn't divine that ever lived in this world was a woman, the Virgin Mary. But that doesn't matter to them. The patriarchy needs to be destroyed, added Potschun. Where'd you hear that kind of language? Feminists, modern day feminists, in their crazy marches and protests. Destroy the patriarchy! Why are we hearing this in this bloody synod in the Catholic Church? Why is there even a synod? Bishop Rudolf Wöderhauser of Regensburg spoke up in opposition to the text, characterizing the push for ordaining women to the diaconate as a first step toward opening up the priesthood and the episcopacy too. The Regensburg bishop, a close friend of Pope Benedict, is one of only 3 German bishops to have publicly voted against each of the Synodal Way's controversial texts. The Synodal Assembly also elected 20 members to join this bloody process over the next 3 years. 19 lay people, 1 auxiliary bishop will join the 27 bishops who head the dioceses, and 27 members of the Central Committee of German Catholics already on the committee. The Synodal Way, which began in 2019, has been a collaborative effort between the ZDK and the German Bishops' Conference. So it began in 2019, and now they're going to be doing another 3 years. This is just going on and on. That in one sense is good because it means they're not making any crazy decisions yet, but it seems like they clearly want to push forward with it, and they're doing everything they can to change enough minds to do it. This German bishop situation, seriously, what I said before, give them a reprimand. They've kind of been given one already, but I didn't think it was strong enough. Give them like a serious one, like you stop doing this now or you're out. Not, we don't really think this is a good thing and it's really against, like, no, none of that. Just stop it now. Written warning. And if they don't stop, get these off, out they go. All the German bishops that are thinking like this, get these off, out you go. Germany would be better off with no bishops at all than have these crazy people in charge, because most of these bishops are insane. And they can just have their handful of bishops who are not insane. And then later on, they can have more bishops, you know, ordain more bishops. Get rid of these people. They're causing too many problems. I can't believe this is just going on and nothing's being done and nothing's being said. Because it seems as though Pope Francis isn't keen on this idea. Unless he is keen on it, And officially, he's pretending not to be keen on it. And that's why he isn't doing anything. Because you think that as the Pope, he has the power to stop this, right? Pretty sure he does. So there we go. The Germans are at it again. And once again, disclaimer, plenty of great German people, I'm sure, and great German Catholics, but your bishops, terrible, absolutely terrible. Give me your opinions, please, folks, in the comments on what's going on here. It just seems like an ongoing story, really. Anytime you read anything that's coming out from Germany relating to Catholicism, it's generally negative. Unless it's something about people protesting what the bishops are doing. Thanks for watching, folks. Do return. God bless. Have a blessed day.